Fur and the Fan Friends, and welcome back to this week's episode. We have had a few challenges come up on our little project here, which we're going to talk about. We have an issue with that second center wall, or partition wall. We had a little bit of an issue with our panels. After we built the frame, we cut panels and they didn't fit. So I got to make this new little tool, which I'll show you in just a little while. Makes the panels fit in really nice. Another issue we came up with is down near the wheels. We're going to have to adjust our center panel partition wall just a little bit. And as you can see here, I've mocked up the parts of our existing trailer. I put in this panel here. I put in our sink and our existing ice box. And it's a good thing I put in these three little items here is because, well, they're the things we're trying to retrofit this whole camper around. It would have been easier, yes, I totally agree with you. It would have been easier just to start from scratch, but we're not. This is our 1940s trailer that, by golly, we're going to get it finished. And we're going to have fun doing it, right? As long as we keep laughing and keep moving along. But anyway, let me bring the camera around here and show you our few little items here. Bring back some memories of how it used to be. So as you see here, I've placed our sink and our ice box in this position that it will be. Our center partition wall back here, we were going to have it come forward a couple of inches to miss our wheel wells, but we can't really do that because this ice box has a set dimension. And even though I'm going to be rebuilding the ice box, the bottom, I'm not going to be rebuilding the top part, so I have to keep those same dimensions. The sink here, I rediscovered that it actually hangs on the edge of our ice box here, which makes a nice surface. Now, what we were going to do originally was going to put a second partition wall in right here. Well, I can't really do that because our sink comes back and it would protrude into that space. So instead of cutting the sink and retroing all that, what we're going to do is instead of making that second partition wall, we're going to just make we're going to make one full cabinet along the top, so it'll have a door here, here, and here, and that way it'll just be one unit unto itself, and then we can secure it to the wall there, and the back wall. That'll be good. Then what we're going to do is we'll build our countertop out right here. And then that is where our gas stove top will be. And then in this corner here, it's obviously it's opposite of this one, but as you can see, we have like 8 inches of space back here. So what we're going to end up doing on this side over here is we're going to use that space and we're actually going to build a cabinet on this side. So you can open the door and put storage inside of there also. I think that'll be a nice replacement instead of that old utility box. If you remember that, it was all crumbling and falling apart and into the floor. I think we'll keep everything on this side inside of that cabinet. I think that'll work. So where does that leave us? Well, with our partition wall, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and build a little wall from our first partition wall. We're going to build it out to the edge of the sink, and then we'll just continue to carry it over. But instead of going all the way to the floor, it's just going to be connected to our countertop here. So it'll be down and down. What that allows us to do is we're going to put electricity in here. Yeah, so we can actually see at night. And I think it'll be a nice opportunity to put, since our wall is back a little bit here, we're going to go ahead and hide the light strip under here so that when it's on at night, it won't be glaring in our eyes. It'll just have a nice glow down on our countertop surface, but we won't actually see the lights. So that'll work out fine. So with that, we're still going to have a space on the other side for our feet to come in. It just won't be that full extra foot. It'll be more like, oh, I don't know, 8 inches or so. And that'll work just fine. We're still figuring out what we want to do below this space. Over in this corner, down in this corner is our battery box, which we'll go ahead and build a little enclosure for it to be secured. But we still have this space in here for our water. I'm going to have to change it up a little bit from what I wanted to before, but I think it'll still be okay. We can store our water in there. It's just a matter of accessing it. How do we want to get to it? Basically, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to utilize all the space that we have back here. So that's our update for now. I think what we'll do next is we'll go ahead and we'll build that upper cabinet. Then we'll continue to design on the fly, so to speak. And we'll get this thing continuing to roll forward. Well, I forgot to hit the video record button when I cut out our dados with our router. So as you can see, I now have grooves or dados in our cabinet top and in our cabinet bottom. So what this is going to allow us to do is they're exactly the same. Like that. And so now what we'll need to do after we glue and screw these 4 pieces together, then we're going to make our face frame here. And that face frame is going to be in place of the second partition wall, which we were going to do, but it's changed to this instead. So let's get on with making our face frame and go from there. On this segment, we're going to focus on building our face frame for our upper cabinet. I'm going to show you how we connect the different pieces of our face frame. I'm going to show you how we do our inset panels. We have inset panels on our first partition wall, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do it on our face frame because we have 2 areas where we're just going to have blocked out panels. So to get started, I spent a few minutes with our chop saw and I cut out our various pieces. We have our 2 long stiles, and then we have 6 of the little pieces here, which will divide our face frame into openings for our doors. Now, before we get started in making our pocket hole joints, I just want to state that I am not sponsored by this particular company, but I do like the product. So with that out of the way, let's just go ahead and get started. I'm going to show you how we make pocket hole joints. If you'll notice here, I have green marks marking the pieces that are going to be facing us. And we're going to be putting our holes in the back side of those. So we're going to take opposite of our green mark, just stick our short pieces of wood here in the jig, and it's got a mark here on the side that centers our 2 screws. We'll just lock that in place. Remove it, turn it upside down, and drill our other 2 holes. So what we have here are 2 slots that our screws are now going to go through and joint onto our piece of wood at the top. And we take our piece of wood, put a little bit of glue on the end of it, line up our marks on the wood. Then we use a clamp to hold it in place while we screw it tight. And just like that, we have our first stile connected to our rail. We'll go ahead and do the other 1, 2, 3, and then we have to stop and do something special so that we can slide some panels in the side. I've taken the last little while and created our face frame. I think that'll be beautiful. We're going to put a blank panel here. This will be a door, this will be a door, this will be a door, and that'll be a blank panel over there. Now the next thing we need to do is to fill in this panel and this panel with our hardboard. I have a special tool that I made, and I'll show you why I had to make it. This special tool that I made that I'm going to show you now is something that they probably already have in the store, at least something similar to it, but I needed it immediately. And I had a few pieces of, well, I had some tube steel, and I had some rod steel, and I had a welder, and I welded a couple of bolts, and put some screws on here. Now what does this do? Well, with the screws, it's very tight. With the screws, it lets me slide this so I can adjust the space between here and here. And what I'm using that for is, well, let's spin around and show you. What this tool is for is to get the correct length and width of our panels. The idea, what I'm trying to do is get the right side length of our panels to fit inside of this groove, and then I need it to get inside of this groove over here. Now, what I tried to do on the first panels on our partition wall was take our tape measure, and then I kind of stuck it there and said, oh, it's probably going to be about so and so inches long. Well, that didn't turn out to be the case because they pretty much fell out because I didn't measure it right. This is a way that you can do it where you don't have to use a tape measure at all. What you do is you just take this tool and you stick one end into that slot, this end over here into this slot, push it so that they're snug, and simply lock it down. There. Now you just take it back out, and you have the exact length from this point to this point that you can lay on your board, and then just mark it, cut it off. Perfect fit every time. Now, being here at Fern the Fan, we went ahead and, well, we thought we were doing it the easy way. The easy way came back to bit me because I got so excited that we're making a lot of time. Well, I wasn't going to tell you about the boo-boo I made, but when we ran our rails or our longer pieces through the router to put the little grooves in here to make a slot to hold our panel, well, I took them like within an inch of the edge because I didn't want I didn't want to see a little groove cut here in the ends. That was fine, not a big deal. But the problem was, I went ahead because I was having so much fun and making up so much time, then I went ahead and I glued and I screwed these pieces together. And the problem with that is, normally on all the other ones, you cut it and you can just slide this piece right in place from the edge. But since there were no slots, I couldn't slide it because this was already glued together. So what I do? Well, I made it work. Thankfully, these pieces are little enough and they're pliable enough to where I went ahead and I just made the piece and I bent it just slightly and it was able to snap it in place. Then I put our cap piece on, glued it all up. Not a big boo-boo, but it slowed us down. In the beginning of the video, I told you we would be using a biscuit joiner to secure this frame to our cabinet top. However, I've changed my mind. We are running out of time for this video and I want to sand everything while I can still get to all the pieces fairly easily, so that when we get ready to paint it later, then I won't have to do any sanding. It'll already be done. And that's what our upper cabinet looks like. Hopefully next week we'll have our cabinet all sanded and we'll show a short little snippet on how we biscuited. Remember the biscuits? Wood for eating. Please join us next week when we'll have our cabinet all sanded and biscuited, and I'll try not to eat a wood biscuit, although they're very tempting.